Welcome back to the Earth server. In our last audit, we tracked the 12th planet, the 3,600-year orbital reset button that cleared the map during the 11th millennium BCE. But when a server wipes, it rarely clears the cache perfectly. To understand the current build of our civilization, we have to look at the legacy assets left behind. Most people call this ancient history, but we call it a forensic audit of a crime scene. Look at the unfinished obelisk in Aswan. This is 1,200 tons of solid pink granite, still attached to the bedrock. If finished, it would have been the largest single piece of stone ever handled by human hands, standing 137 feet tall. The official patch notes, provided by mainstream archaeology, claim that this was being cut with dolerite pounding stones. They want you to believe that level 1 players using nothing but copper and rocks spent decades hammering away at granite until a skyscraper-sized monument fell out. But look at the scoop marks in the trench. These aren't the marks of impact, they are the marks of displacement. Modern experiments by engineers like Dennis Stocks have tried to replicate this with diorite bowls, and while you can wear down granite, you cannot achieve these vertical continuous scoops that run down the side of the stone and continue onto the floor in a single unbroken motion. If you've ever used a CNC router or a thermal lance, you'd recognize these signatures. They are the signatures of a high-energy tool removing material at a rate that would vaporize a copper chisel. The trench is barely wide enough for a human body to fit into. How do you swing a heavy pounding stone in a space that narrow with enough force to remove tons of granite? You don't. The math of human ergonomics says no. The precision, the depth, and the speed required to remove granite at this volume suggests an admin tool, a thermal or sonic displacement technology that simply shouldn't exist in a low-poly era. This isn't a tomb, it's a workstation that was abandoned mid-render when the Great Reset hit. The dev team didn't just leave, they pulled the plug while the machines were still running, leaving tool marks as a permanent glitch in the matrix. To understand the sheer technical gap between the dev team and the players, we have to move underground to the Serapeum of Saqqara. This is where the narrative of primitive man completely breaks down into a series of logical errors that the algorithm can no longer ignore. Deep within these tunnels are 24 massive boxes made of granite and diorite. Each one weighs between 70 and 100 tons. The lids alone weigh 30 tons. Now, the level 1 narrative says these were coffins for sacred Apis bulls. There are 3 major glitches in that story. First, no bulls were ever found inside the original sealed boxes. Second, the engineering required to place them is geotechnically impossible for the era. The tunnels are cut from soft shale, a material with a Mohs hardening of only 2.5. This shale is incapable of supporting the immense weight of the rollers or anchoring the winches needed to move a 100-ton block without collapsing the entire floor. Diorite is one of the hardest stones on the map. It scores a 7 or 8 on the Mohs scale. It's harder than carbon steel. Yet the interior surfaces of these boxes are finished to a degree of flatness that exceeds modern architectural standards. In the late 20th century, engineer Christopher Dunn inspected these boxes with a precision straight edge accurate to 0.0001 inches. For context, that's 1/20th the thickness of a human hair. He found that the inside corners were worked down to a dimension sharper than what we find in modern high-end machining. If you take a flashlight and place it on the other side of the straight edge, no light passes through. Think about the physics of that. To achieve that level of parallelism and squareness in a lightless, oxygen-deprived tunnel, only using pounding stones and sand, is a statistical impossibility. It's a loading error in the historical narrative. Why would a primitive civilization spend hundreds of thousands of man-hours achieving aerospace-level tolerances for a burial ritual? The answer is they wouldn't. These aren't coffins. In any other technical context, we would identify these as shielded hardware housing. Granite is a natural insulator, but it also contains quartz, which is piezoelectric. Their density and sub-millimeter precision suggest they were designed to contain something high energy, possibly high frequency acoustic resonators or massive batteries that utilize the Earth's magnetic field. They were the server rocks of the Anunnaki infrastructure designed to protect sensitive tech from the atmospheric resets we discussed in video 3. This wasn't religion, this was redundant hardware storage. If the Serapeum boxes were the individual components, the Giza Plateau was the mainframe. For centuries, we've been told the Great Pyramid is a grave for a pharaoh named Khufu. But the audit shows a different story. Not a single mummy, not a single piece of funerary art, and not a single hieroglyphic inscription has ever been found in the original construction of the Great Pyramid. What was found is iron oxide, quartz-bearing granite, and a layout that mirrors a modern industrial acoustic resonator. The Great Pyramid is not a building, it is a machine. It consists of 6 million tons of limestone and granite, precisely aligned to true north with a higher degree of accuracy than any modern building in existence today. The pink granite in the King's Chamber is the key. It contains approximately 30% quartz. Quartz is a piezoelectric material. This means when it's mechanically stressed or vibrated, it produces an electric charge. Recent electromagnetic studies have shown that the Great Pyramid's chambers can collect and concentrate electromagnetic energy, specifically in the radio frequency range, within its internal chambers and under its base. The air shafts aren't for air, they are waveguides. The Grand Gallery isn't for procession, it's a Helmholtz resonator designed to amplify sound. If you were a dev team looking to stabilize a planet's crust or generate wireless energy for a global colony, you wouldn't build a monument, you would build a massive CPU heatsink. By utilizing the Earth's natural telluric currents and piezoelectric properties of the granite, the Giza complex functioned as a global power hub. It was the source code of ancient energy, a tech stack that was deplatformed the moment the Enlil faction decided the human build was becoming too loud and dangerous to the admin. We've audited the precision, now we have to audit the mass. This is where the official patch notes become unintentionally hilarious. Welcome to Baalbek, Lebanon. At the base of the Jupiter temple sits a foundation of stones known as the Trilithon. These are 3 individual blocks of limestone, each weighing approximately 800 to 1,000 tons. To put that in perspective, the largest cranes in the world today, like the Liebherr LR 13000, would be pushed to their absolute torque limits trying to lift and seat these blocks with the precision we see in the wall. The Level 1 narrative claims these were moved on wooden rollers by thousands of slaves pulling ropes, but physics has a hard cap on that theory. According to materials mechanics, the static friction alone on an 800-ton rock is enough to defeat the collective pull of thousands of humans. Furthermore, the pressure exerted by 800 tons would have pulverized wooden rollers into dust the second the weight was applied. There is no ramp large enough, no rope strong enough, and no amount of human muscle that explains how these were lifted 20 feet into the air and placed so tightly that you cannot fit a needle between the seams. But it gets weirder. In the nearby quarry sits the stone of the pregnant woman, weighing nearly 1,200 tons, and a third, newly discovered block weighing 1,650 tons. These weren't just stones, they were the foundation assets of a massive project that was abandoned. These stones were spawned and placed using a technology that bypasses our current understanding of gravity, possibly acoustic levitation or mass manipulation cheats used by the dev team to build out the map's foundation before the players arrived. It's the Baalbek loading error, a remnant of a time when the laws of physics were being modded for high-speed construction. If you look at the tool marks on these stones, they don't match the Roman era. The Romans built on top of them, much like a new dev team building a low-res village on top of the ruins of a high-res city from a previous DLC. This isn't history, it's a structural glitch that was never patched out because the admin lost the password to the original server. The final proof that our history is a reskinned version of a much older global build is the mirror effect. If different cultures around the world developed independently, as we are told, then their save files should look different. Their architecture, their math, and their celestial alignments should be unique to their region, but they don't. Why is the layout of the pyramids in Mexico an identical mathematical match to the layout of the pyramids in Egypt? Why do they both correlate perfectly to the Belt of Orion? But specifically, as it appeared in 10,500 BCE, why do we see the same H blocks in Pumapunka as we see in the ancient temples of India? Why do the Maui of Easter Islands share the same knuckle-to-knuckle hand positioning as the statues of Göbekli Tepe? It's because the source code for the map was standardized. Whether it was the Enki faction in the Eridu sector or Enlil's admin protocols in the north, the infrastructure was part of a unified global tech stack. We're not looking at the evolution of man through trial and error. We are looking at the ruins of a highly advanced global civilization that was decommissioned during the last reset. These megalithic sites aren't mysteries. They are forensic evidence. They are the physical proof that our current civilization is a low-resolution version of a much more powerful system that preceded us. We are living in the ruins of the dev team's playground, and the admin has been trying to hide the tool marks ever since, feeding us a story of primitive evolution to keep us from looking at the control panel. But the hardware, the stones, and the power plants is only half the story. To understand why the dev team really left and what they left behind in our own bodies, we have to go deeper than the stone. We have to go inside the cell. We have to look at the Lulu update. The moment the dev team decided to merge their own code with the local inhabitants of the Earth server. In our next audit, we're going into the laboratory. We are auditing the Anunnaki genetic build, the human patch note that changed everything. The audit is complete. Join the meta, subscribe to upgrade your clearance.